Hello and welcome. So today I'd like to talk about some about anime scoring. This is a very interesting concept. There's two types of ways. There's two ways you can score anime, or vote on what's your favorite. And now I would say about 90 to 95% of all people vote and score things. I would say rank. Maybe rank's the right word. They would rank anime in the first type of way, and then I'd say maybe like 5 or 10% of the community that they rank this other way. So the first type is more of kind of a nicer way to grade, where they rank things higher, and then the second kind, which is like only a really small percentage of people, is where they rank anime very harshly, and you see these really like sometimes really low scores. So, what is the difference between the two, and why do people fall into either category? So, I'm going to kind of go over like the reasons. So, if you pick an anime, like I'm just going to pick like Attack on Titan here. So, if you look at the scores, like I gave it a 9 here, but if you look at the scores, you can give it from a 1 to a 10, right? Like you can kind of see that right here. You can score anime from 1 to 10. Okay. Now, um, what constitutes average? That's a very good question. Like, what's an average anime? And everybody has a different idea of what score belongs on average. So the way I used to rank anime is how most people rank it. It's when you watch an anime and you're like, that's pretty good. Like it was okay. Like just kind of watch it. It was kind of cool. Okay, anime, not amazing, not really bad either. You're like, okay, so if you give it a score, what would it be? Most people, I think, would give an anime like that a 7. They would give it a 7, which here in my anime list, that's good, a 7. And I think that's what most people do. Most people fall on that idea that 7 is average. That's the idea I think most people have ingrained in their head, is that 7 is average. So they think like, oh, it's pretty good, it's okay, not amazing, not too bad. I'm going to give it a 7, and that is what people hold as their average standard, is a 7. Now, why do they have that idea and they're ingrained in their head? Well, I don't know how it is for other countries. I think in America, for example, I think that is because of our grading system. A C is okay. It's a 70%. It's passing. It's passing. Now, a lot of us know that like some of us, a C is amazing. A lot of others like are try to be really good students, and to us, a C is awful. Like we want A's and B's. So, but we have this idea ingrained in our head that a 7 is average, that a C is 70%, it's passing. I think that is why people think of 7 as average. But in reality, if you look at my anime list, a 7 is good. So then you ask yourself, this anime that you watch that you think is so and okay, is it really good, or is it just average? And if you really think of it, if you look at the scoring and you actually look at the words attached to each score, average is actually a 5. It's the middle, a 5. Half of 10. It's in the middle, a 5. So, this anime that you watched that you gave a 7, and you're just like looking at it, and you just think it's so. Instead of giving it a 7, maybe you should have given it a 5 or a 6. And this is where I'll get to the second type of grading, where you get the people that are like veteran anime watchers. So the people that like, so 95% of the population, I think, votes the first way. And the scores here reflect that. Like I can see that the scores are kind of high sometimes. Like basically, if anime is getting like a 6.5, that means people think it's bad. If it's below a 7, if the average score is below a 7, then it means people think it's bad. I know that because that's how people grade. Now, the scores I give now these days are going to be lower than the average, because I grade the second way. And people that watch a lot of anime, eventually they get like pickier, so they rank things a little more harshly. And since they've watched a lot of anime, they differentiate between bad and good anime a lot more. So when they give out a 9 or a 10, they really mean it's a 9 or a 10. It's really amazing. They don't just give out 9s and 10s easily. Um, so what I realized was that I was giving everything 7s and 8s. Like I was watching like a bunch of anime, and I was giving out like 7s and 8s all the time. I wasn't really giving out 9s and 10s, but I was giving out tons of 7s and 8s. And I was like, this kind of weird. Like, how do you differentiate good anime from bad anime? I'm giving everything 7s and 8s. And it means it's good and very good. And then I'm looking at these some of these anime I'm giving out eights, and I'm thinking, are they really very good or are they just good? So what I realized is that what happened is like, okay, so the nines and tens that I was giving out are fair. I still believe that, but the eights that I was giving out eights to anime, those anime should have been some of those should have been sevens. Some of the eights I was giving out should have been sevens. And I'll show you my average score here in a bit. So, so some of the anime, so I was giving out like, so the eights I was giving out, some of them should have been sevens. And the sevens I was giving out, those should have been fives and sixes. The anime that I was putting down a seven, that it's good, they really should have been like, yeah, like I said, fives and sixes. And the sixes I was giving out, those should have been like fours. Because when I gave a six, I thought it was bad, and bad is a four. Like according to the scale, bad is a four. It's not a six. So when people think an anime is bad, they give it a six. I think a lot of they give it a six, but a six is fine. It's not bad. So if you look at the grading scale, a lot of people inflate a lot of their scores, probably 1 or 2 points. So the mean score of the average person is probably about a point higher than mine. My mean score right now is about a 6.5, which that seems really low, but yeah, I've watched a lot of anime and now I grade under this new scale. I try to. Some of my old anime, there's probably still stuff on my list that's inflated. The scores are inflated, but over time, this score has been dropping. Like over the last year or two, that score's been dropping. It used to be like a 7.5. But over time, I've been dropping the score because like I kind of go back and I think like, why am I giving such high scores? So what it does is when you grade under the new scale, this harsher scale, you discern the difference between anime more. Instead of giving sevens and eights all the time, you're using a bigger scale. You're using fives, sixes, sevens, eights. You're differentiating between different qualities of anime. You're not just dumping everything into like, oh, it's okay. It's like a 7 or 8. It's okay. You're differentiating. So that's kind of like the new scale. So I'm not saying you have to grade like this, but I think over time, if you watch enough anime, you will naturally, I think, maybe gravitate towards this, I guess, stricter form of grading. And so that's why some people give out like threes and fours, and you're like, why is that such? Why do they be giving out such low scores? It's because the anime they watched was actually bad. A three is very bad. Like I don't usually give out threes. Like I think I gave Boruto a three. Like yeah, I actually gave Boruto a three because that is that like it is very bad. I heard it's gotten better, but Boruto was pretty bad. I watched 109 episodes of it, so I think I'm qualified to say that those first 100 episodes, it's a 3 out of 10. It was very bad. Um, so anyway, here's my score, 6.5. I might do another video at one point showing all the anime I've watched, all this stuff, and this ridiculous number of days of anime I've watched and all this stuff. So I might talk about the list at some point. But anyway, I just want to talk about that today. That was a really interesting concept about the psychology of grading, the psychology of ranking anime. So I think it's really interesting that to use this harsher, stricter scale. I think for like if you watch enough anime, you've watched a lot, then generally your scores kind of drop over time because you're just stricter with your grading. So anyway, you can grade however you want, but I just thought I'd talk about that. So see you next time.